Good evening everyone, my name's Matt, I'm an economics graduate and accountant and lover of all things finance. Today I'm coming to you with what I hope will be the first video in a new series of mine relating to financial advice type issues. We're going to talk about things like investing, spending, saving, all that sort of good stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about investing in stocks and shares for beginners. I think it's fair to say that the uncertainty around the pandemic has certainly got a lot of people thinking, how can they add an extra stream of income to their day-to-day salary? And whilst investing here and there in the stock market is unlikely to generate huge volumes of life-changing cash flow, what it is possibly a better alternative for your money than it just sitting in a bank account earning 0.00001% interest. I'm not going to worry today too much about discussing the potential risks and rewards of investing. I'm going to work on the basis that anyone that's tuned in to this video, whereby I'm going to review an investment platform in FREETRADE, has already decided that investing is something that they want to get started with. So to crack on, what actually is FREETRADE? The company is what's known as a challenge stockbroker, providing free trading for all basic account holders. The business is able to operate through what's known as a freemium model, whereby all basic functionality is included free of charge, but if you wish, you're able to upgrade your account, look at things like ISAs and get involved in slightly more complicated aspects of trading for a small monthly fee. I think in this case it's £3. To be fair, it's a little bit like how YouTube itself works, with normal YouTube and YouTube Premium if you want I suppose a better service offering. When it comes to stockbroking, this model is actually something that originated in the US with a company called Robinhood, although in recent years it's actually been really popular over in the UK too, primarily driven by the success of Trading 212. FREETRADE is FCA registered and approved, so any funds held on the platform up to a maximum of £85,000 are protected by government legislation should the business collapse. The company, and specifically the app, have been around for the last few years, although popularity's increased loads over the last few months, primarily driven by them starting a sort of refer a friend scheme, whereby when somebody signs up using your link, then both you and them get a free share. How this works is your account is literally credited with one full share in a random company with a share price between £5 and £200. That said, all the shares that I've been given free of charge so far have firmly fallen within the £5 to £10 bracket, which I suppose is between 5 and 200, so I can't complain too much, but it's not something to get too excited for. But what you could do is set up an account, deposit some money, which you need to do to trigger the free share, get the free share, sell it immediately, and then withdraw that cash, and you've made an easy fiver or tenner. As the name FREETRADE suggests, you don't pay any fees on these basic types of transactions. And the app itself actually feels and looks a lot like the Monzo app, for anyone that's used that. It just feels well optimized for use on a phone, and to be fair, it's just really easy to use, really simple. On the assumption that you're in it for the slightly longer haul than just capitalizing on the free share, here's a quick list of some pros and cons that I've come across in my time using the app so far. So pro number one, as you might expect, is it's free. Assuming you're just doing basic stuff like picking a stock, buying a stock, holding a stock and selling a stock, it's free. There's no hidden charges. And I must say this is pretty nice if you're somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing and they just fancy dabbling in the stock market almost by way of a hobby rather than a serious investment proposition. Unfortunately though, that is really where the list of pros finishes. And there are quite a few niggly little cons that I'm just going to move on to now. So con number one is that there's actually a pretty limited selection of funds to currently pick from, albeit I think this is being added to all the time. There are currently no traditional funds, no Vanguard life funds, and only a really limited range of ETFs at the moment. Con number two is that there's no physical outlets or branches, and it's really hard to get hold of a real person if you've got any queries or questions you need to raise. They primarily rely on a chatbot function, which is okay, but possibly doesn't give you the level of confidence you want if you're dealing with large sums of money. That said, this is basically one of the key ways that they keep their costs down while remaining profitable, whilst offering the majority of the service free of charge. It's one of those ones where you've got to take the rough with the smooth, really. Con number 3 is that the quality of historical information included within the app relating to individual stocks and shares is pretty limited. If you want to carry out anything approaching in-depth analysis, you've certainly got to do it elsewhere using other information and just come back to this platform solely to make the purchase. Again, it seems a little bit like app development is possibly somewhere where corners have been cut slightly in an attempt to keep costs as low as possible. And finally, con number 4 is that normally when you're buying shares, you're dealing with a live price and you execute the trade and it happens there and then. But what FREETRADE does is collect all of the trades that people have committed to throughout the course of the day and executes them in one bulk buying session at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But what FREETRADE does is collect all the shares that people have committed to buying throughout the course of the day and executes those purchases at 3 o'clock in one bulk buying session. What this means is you won't know the exact final price before you actually buy. And this can be pretty important on a day where there's big news and things are looking pretty volatile. All that said, you can bypass this issue if it's something that you're worried about, and they do offer a live execution service, but in each of those trades that costs you £1 extra, so then you're moving away from the free model slightly. The 3 o'clock bulk buying is again something that they've implemented in an attempt to keep their costs of operation down. So all things considered, what's the verdict? I think it's a pretty simple one from me. This feels a lot like a sort of toy investment platform, certainly not one that a seasoned pro would be using, but to any analysis there I think slightly misses the point. To be fair, the app's absolutely great if you just want to dip your toe in the investment waters and mitigate the risk of being taken advantage of by some complicated scheme which is charging fees left, right and centre for various aspects of what you're doing, none of which you really understand. It's really for people who are wanting to scratch an itch in terms of dabbling in the stock market. You can easily just whack some money in Apple, Tesla and Starbucks without thinking too much about it. It's not a scam, they're not going to rip you off. It's basically just beginner level investing, and if that sounds like something that would suit you, then I'd really recommend giving it a try. I do hope that's been a helpful little overview. I know it's pretty brief. If you've made it this far, then thank you very much for sticking with me. Any questions, do drop a note down below and I will certainly get back to you. And I don't think there's anything else from me today, guys. I'll hopefully see you next time. Until then, all the best and stay safe. Bye bye.